an outbreak in the measles. This is in Texas and New Mexico, now topping 100 cases. Health officials say more than 95% of these cases are in people who have not been vaccinated. The measles vaccine has been around since the 60s. We've got Dr. David Shaker with us now to break down this big question as to why and how people are getting this now, where for the most part we should, at least as a society, not have this issue.
Agree. I think let's start a little bit further back. So what is measles? It's something that people haven't seen in a number of years. So just so people can recognize it, it's an illness that you can get. Usually has, like COVID, like a little bit of a delay, maybe 7 to 14 days. In the first 4 days, you're going to see significant fevers, chills, conjunctivitis or red eyes. And then we look for what's called Koplik spots, which are in the mouth. They're white spots with a little bit of a bluish hue that you can see in the mouth. Later on, you'll get a rash that starts at the top of the head, goes all the way down to the feet. It starts flat, and then they start to coalesce together, and they can be a little bit more raised. If you have any of these symptoms, I highly recommend you do talk to your doctor. It can happen in kids. It can happen in adults. One of the interesting things is that in the last 25 years, there's been less than 3,000 cases across the country. So since 2000, any of the doctors that have graduated probably haven't seen too many cases, if any of these. So something for everyone to be on the lookout together.
And let's talk about this, because I know for the most part on the vaccine schedule, you've got the MMR shot, which covers this, a very controversial vaccine.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be a politicalized issue, right? So last year we had 285 cases. This year, thus far, we're at 93 cases. In 2019, there was 1,300 cases. What's very interesting is that between 89 and 90, 55,000 cases. And that was mainly because we saw the effect of the vaccine fade over time. At that point, they were only using a 1-dose vaccine schedule rather than what we have now as 2. So a lot of people are asking the question, should I get vaccinated again or not? Whether you're adult, whether you're a young adult or older. So what's important to know, and if this is your birth year, please stand up, okay? If you were born before 1957, you have what we term as natural immunity because it was rampant before then. There was no vaccination. Anything between 1957 to 1968, we used a more mild vaccine, so it faded in effect over time. So those people can consider getting a second dose now. Anything between 1968, like we said, to 1989, again, a 1-dose. And then after 1990, it was more of the 2-dose. And so that community should most likely be set with the 2 doses. Any 2 doses give you about 90% effect. And you're looking for herd immunity at about 93% overall in terms of vaccination. Right now, there are some states that are still living in the mid-80s. I can report for the D.C. area thus far, there is no cases. My home state of New Jersey does have some, though, that are percolating.
Are we seeing that these are localized to groups that have traveled abroad, that are coming back and spreading it amongst their community, or how exactly is the spread happening?
So unfortunately, even though we run state data, it's mainly happening across certain communities that you're finding a lower of vaccination rates overall. So the state may represent 85%, but a smaller community or county may have a much lower. That's where we're seeing a lot of the infections. And that's also getting translocated to other areas that have lower immunization rates. I think that's the biggest issue, is how do we get the immunization rates back up to as high as we can?
93%, that herd immunity that we're looking for in the 80s. Still have some work to do. Dr. Shaker, thank you for that breakdown here. And as he said, no cases reported across the DMV. So always got to stay vigilant. When we come back,